This is the Shotgun City Sheriff, the law himself, Clayton Clark.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Kennedy, a.k.a. Mr. Anderson.
This is the Young Titan, Aaron Atlas.
Hey, this is Matt Brannigan.
This is the Warbound Hellhound Bo Sword.
This is your favorite drunken pro wrestler, a.k.a. the Bud Light Brawler, Dalton Davis.
This is Lizzie Six.
This is Jake Something.
And this is the jaw-jacking, back-cracking, God created all men equal, and then he made me the sequel, Rohit Raju, and you are listening to the Spot Show Podcast.
Spot Show Podcast.
The Spot Show Podcast.
Spot Show Podcast. Podcast.
The Spot Show Podcast.
Spot Show Podcast. Hell yeah.
The Spot Show Podcast.
The Spot Show Podcast? Yeah, that's right, I stuttered. Shut up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Spot Show Podcast, an independent wrestling podcast with a few pit stops along the way. I am your host, Jim Mint 10 Dickie Wabash. See, I've started changing up the gimmick a little bit, and I almost reverted back to the old one. I gotta remember, the new gimmick is Jim Mint 10. The person I'm talking to right now is sadly not the one-legged wonder, Michael Madrox. Sad thing about Madrox, right? He was walking through the woods, bear came out, attacked him. So there was a documented bear attack. That's why Madrox couldn't be here today. But, guys, we have got, when I say, I don't really like to speak in hyperbole. I speak truth when I talk. The best ring announcer in the Midwest, hands down.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, I mean it. I mean it. That is the voice, the golden voice of Mr. Jeremy Hamilton is here on the Spot Show Podcast finally. Jeremy, wonderful to have you.
Good day to you, Dickie. It's great to be here, man. I'm glad to finally be here on the Spot Show Podcast.
Yeah, this is definitely one that, and I say this every single time we have a guest. This is one that we've been trying to make happen for a long time, because it's true. I mean, you were on the short list from the very beginning of the guest that we've always wanted, and there have been some chances where we've been able to do it, and we've not been able to for various reasons, but you and I might have a little project that we're working on today. So I was like, let's go ahead and knock out the podski.
That sounds good to me, man. Like you said, we have been trying to do this for a long time. I remember Madrox I think he was the first one to bring that out to me, like at an EPW show.
Yeah.
I got all kinds of pumped about that. But for one reason or another, we've always got some hijinks going on. So it kind of gets pushed to the side.
Very busy men. I mean, I'm trying to run a whole damn production company over here, and I've got so many people that are coming at me and being like, "Oh, when can we be on? Or when can we do this? And when can we do that?" And it's like, brother, I'm trying, but we're just a 2-man operation here, and I'm gonna put you over in this aspect of it as well. I mean, like we've got definitely a really good support system. You've only recently started to kind of integrate yourself into what, like the behind the scenes stuff with MadBash. Like, yeah. I'm not gonna bury in any leads or anything here, but I know that you've pitched ideas with, projects that, we're not really comfortable talking about just yet. But you were in the Christmas special, you started to pop up, and you were in a couple of the Danville Dreamers documentaries, which you have one of my favorite parts of, I forget which Danville Dreamers it is. I think it's Dreamin' Ain't Easy, where you're trying to talk into the mic and it keeps cutting out on you. My. And I'm walking up on you, just go, this microphone is amazing. It's one of the, I just got like this perfect angle of like you just like being so frustrated because this microphone is not working.
Oh, I remember that day so well.
And yeah. I'm gonna tell you, man, the second show that I ever called because I started out as a ring announcer, as you know. Second show I ever called. This is, they didn't have wireless mics or anything. It was a straight cord, ran probably 20 to 30 feet across the room through the crowds. And I'm talking and the mic is cutting out. And then it's just turning off. And this is my second show. And this is a capacity crowd. This was a Relay for Life charity event. So it was pretty, it was pretty packed. So I'm just sitting there trying to get this to work, and thankfully, my mom and dad just happened to be in the crowd, and my dad used to do bands years ago, so he knows like probably just a loose connection in the cord, grab it and loop it. So I'm looking at old Papa Wallace, and he's going, loop the cord. And then I'm looking at the sound guy like, what are we doing? And then we ended up getting out of it. So thankfully you weren't in that situation.
Oh, corded mics are the worst.
Oh,
they're always failing on you.
Always.
Yeah.
All it takes is just one misconnection. And it's like, that's why when we first started doing this, and this is technical mumbo jumbo that nobody probably really even cares about. Like the microphones that we use, these are dual. They have a normal jack on the bottom, and then they have a USB port on the bottom. And when we first started, we were just doing it USB. But the problem was USBs really aren't that strong. So like the cord would be falling out during, those early Spot Show podcasts, like before we really knew what we were doing, before we had a mixer and all that, they were really something else. But before we get too far into this, just want to remind everyone again, this is, of course, the Spot Show podcast. Each and every week, myself, usually Michael Madrox, but again, terrible bear attack.
We miss you, brother.
I hear he's healing well, though. We get together and we talk about this wacky world of professional independent wrestling. And sometimes we have a guest here with us like I do today. Here's the thing. If you like what we're doing, you can support us by going over to patreon.com/MadBash Studios. If you back us at the $5 or above tier, you can get this show early and ad-free. You can't beat that deal with a stick. That's less than a cup of coffee a month, guys. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We have got hundreds of hours of content over on the Patreon, but I understand you don't always have the money. You can still support us completely free. Go to madbashstudios.com. You can find links to your favorite podcasting platform. You can go leave us a 5-star written review. That is invaluable, guys. That is definitely something that really, really helps us get into the algorithm. There, of course, you're going to find our Facebook, our YouTube, our Instagram. Now, as of this recording, TikTok has yet to go dark. So I'm going to plug the TikTok.
Oh, I know. We're like 24 hours away from the deadline of like is this the first banning of a major app ever?
I don't know if maybe.
This is exciting. Like, I don't want to say exciting, but it's kind of like Y2K all over again. What's going to happen when TikTok goes down?
I know. I have a friend that the majority of our relationship is sending TikToks back and forth. That's the majority of our friendship. And her and I today, we were talking and like I was, you know what? I'm going to go through my saved TikToks and I'm just going to send some of our greatest hits from the last, because you can have a streak on TikTok now. And I think her and I are at like an 84-day streak of where we've been sending this stuff, but that's see,
that's so much beyond my social media prowess. I'm old. I don't have TikTok, but I still, when I see a TikTok video, I know that's where the best videos are. I'm just too lazy to go there and get it.
Well, that's the thing, is that like it's entered the vernacular almost of where people see a vertically filmed video that's quick succession that they immediately call it a TikTok. But all of this to say, I'm still going to plug the TikTok. You can go on over there. You can find it. We got a couple plug skis for you here real quick. Coming up here, January 30th, I am going to be appearing on the Extreme Effin' Review podcast. I'm going to be on there with Reb and Menders. We're going to be watching Guilty as Charged 2000.
Oh, that's going to be too much fun.
Really looking forward to that one. I've been wanting to get on. When they first told me about the Extreme Effin' Review podcast, I was like, guys, I got to get on there. I got to get on there. And of course, we were talking about it. One of the stars is here with us. The Christmas special is available on our YouTube. The uncensored version should be coming to our Patreon soon, and there are a couple of bloopers that are going to be going up on the Patreon as well. Most of them involving you.
Oh, dude. I get a little tongue-tied. I'm guessing that's part of it.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, that's also, and we can get into it later, the kiss on the lips that you gave me.
Oh, that was unplanned.
Yeah, it was.
It started as a kiss on the cheek, and by the third take, I was like, I got to do something different. So it just evolved.
That Clayton, because the whole concern was, are we going to be able to see him? And I look up and him just dancing in the.
Oh, that was perfect.
I was like, oh my God, it got me every single time. But and of course, guys, this episode is brought to you by Venom Energy and Elite Pro Wrestling. But you hear a little bit more about them later because we have got the golden voice. Do you have a nickname at all? I don't think you do you?
No, I don't have a nickname.
We may need to establish one.
I've got some that can't be said, but
well,
you know,
I think that the voice of I feel like is just too generic. Because there's so many people. It's like the voice of independent wrestling.
Let's just drop the whole voice thing. Why can't it be like the feet of? You know, or I could have the amazing feet and the awesome introductions or something like that. You know, I could get. If TikTok's still around, I could make some money on there and OnlyFans. Put some foot pics on.
The purveyor of pandemonium, maybe.
That's right.
There you go.
Hey, I like that.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
That's one thing I want to get into to start off here is that, and I've noticed you've kind of stopped doing it the last couple of shows of the year because it was just like who cares the last couple of shows of the year. Mm-hmm. The branding that you have given yourself with this whole pandemonium thing, like I'm gonna tell you guys right now. There is no reason that more people are not doing what it is that you're doing with, you got these little care packages. I mean, I'm wearing the bracelet right now, the are you prepared for the pandemonium bracelet? And then you've adopted the panda in a way and you sell the little stuffed pandas and you got the bracelets and stickers and all this other stuff. And we are always preaching, we being me and Madrox, of like how simple it really is for these people to go out and get just simple tchotchkes.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't cost much. And the profit and the return that you can see on these things is crazy.
And regardless of the profit and return, because these little things you're not getting much of a profit off of, but you're getting that exposure. Somebody has something that they're going to take home with them. And maybe somebody else is going to ask, hey, who's this Clayton Clark? Or, who's this Jay Silva? And then all of a sudden, you've got a story of a night of wrestling and you've got a new fan coming to the next show. So it's a huge thing to go out there and invest a little bit of money in yourself. Myself as an announcer, I never look to really sell a lot. But, there's no other way to get myself over. I'm not in that ring promoting myself ever.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
I'm in there promoting the wrestlers and trying to get their story over.
Yeah.
So for me to have that little side project at the merch tables where I can say, hey, here's my logo, here's my brand, here's my panda, here's my name. Remember me. If you go to a show, you don't like the announcer, say, hey, I know a good guy.
And you have cards as well, too,
Absolutely.
right?
I've got business cards and everything. And, they're very small investments that turn out to be such huge props for yourself and promoting your business.
Yeah, and that's really what a lot of it is that you're in a way promoting a business.
Absolutely.
Because you can look at it as like, solo individual stuff, but it's like, it's called the wrestling business.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to look at it that way. But like you said, like, you're not there to get yourself over. So naturally, and I mean this is no disrespect, obviously, because you're very aware of your role on the card. Someone's not going to want to pay $25 for a Jeremy t-shirt, or anything like that, because all they know is that you're the voice.
But if I keep promoting and I keep pushing myself and I keep coming up with new ideas for merchandise, eventually,
yes, and that's
somebody may be willing to pay that $25.
Exactly.
Somebody may see me on TV someday just because of me being willing to promote myself where other people haven't.
And that was pretty much what I was saying here, is that it's like, we talk about, and it's so weird because when I first started 12 years ago, the hotness was the rubber bracelet, which I'm wearing two right now. But like I mentioned, I'm wearing yours and then I'm wearing the MadBash Wrestling one. And when we were buying those and we were selling them hand over fist, and that was what everyone wanted, just a simple little bracelet you can throw on. And then when we came back, we being me and Madrox, of course, we noticed that kind of wasn't the thing anymore. Like a lot of people weren't really doing the rubber bracelets. And then I see you come out with them and I'm like, there's something to this.
Well, a lot of it is when you're starting off promoting yourself, you want to start off small but very expressive.
Yes, exactly.
Those rubber bracelets are so cheap.
Yep.
But you get to put your slogan on there. You get to put a couple of images on there. You've got the whole bracelet. They let you use it.
So use it, and you used it.
You can get across whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with stickers or sew on patches, things of that sort.
Tchotchkes.
Dude, I grew up in the punk rock world. Nobody could afford to put out a record, but they could always have stickers, patches, just little things that throw out to the crowd or sell on their merch table to keep them going down the road. And learning from that also taught me how to promote myself in little ways that build up to bigger things.
Yeah, and like I think we've had this conversation before of like how punk rock is so similar to wrestling.
Oh, absolutely.
In the way of you talk about the stickers or whatever, like the stickers like or the patches, little things like that's like the epitome of punk rock, like you just grab a sticker and throw it on a signpost and someone walks by and goes, oh, and now it's like QR codes and whatnot.
Oh, absolutely. But you gotta watch those. It might take over your phone. Yeah,
exactly. And that's pretty much what the whole point of this is that to make my point is that I told Madrox a long time ago, like when we were thinking about like what merch and stuff to get, I was like, why are people going to be wanting to buy a MadBash shirt if they're not really familiar with what exactly it is? You have to establish what it is. So that's why you say the stickers, the bracelets, just give them out.
Start small.
Start small. That's all you got to do. You don't have to go crazy. And
there are plenty of shows where like I get the opportunity to come out at the beginning of every show.
Yeah.
Warm up the crowd, go around, high fives and all that. So I may have a pocket full of bracelets or stickers. I'm handing those out in the front row as I'm going around in the crowd, just building up. You start off a show with something like that even, and the fans are automatically getting something for free.
Mm-hmm. And people love free.
Absolutely. It's my favorite 4-letter word.
Oh yeah, me as well. And and like I remember when I first started, I was only a couple of months in before I made the transition from ring announcing to managing. I had a little merch table, and I remember one of the guys who ended up becoming one of my mentors, for lack of a better term, Tolerant Zero. I love that guy to death, and I miss him every day. But he was like, "What's the fucking ring announcer doing with a merch table?" And it's like, well, first of all, I'm a manager now, but it was like, yeah, but like that's the thing is that like people look down on it, because, but what they don't understand is that, we're auxiliary players, obviously, and we're a little bit different because we're trying to promote the MadBash brand, but you're trying to promote the Jeremy Hamilton brand.
Right.
You never know. There could be another booker in the crowd who sees that is like, oh, okay, I'm going to get this
guy's
guy's
own merch table.
Yeah.
He's going to make my show look better.
Yep.
That's one of the things that promoters love, and a lot of people are missing out on because of the simple little things, and they overthink it. These promoters love to see you show up with your own merch.
Yeah.
They love to see a table space taken up. They love to see something for their fans to do during intermission. They love to see something that's going to promote wrestling in general.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see... Hell, if security wants to have a merch table selling, security T-shirts and security stickers, that's fine with me. Because
why not? We're all here to make money.
Yeah, and you're promoting the business as a whole.
Yeah.
The more interaction you can involve the fans with as a whole, the better off you end up putting your show over.
For sure. And not to make this a whole breaking down the logistics of merch conversation, but
we're kind of getting there.
That's where we go. So how much do you typically spend on your merch, and what's the profit you make now?
Well, you are talking to the old man of MadBash, so I'm going to be starting to break down logistics.
Yeah. We're going to start reading fucking consumer reports
Get
about
out Excel.
So this one.
Let's make a spreadsheet.
Yeah. Oh, I love a good spreadsheet, brother. I do love a good spreadsheet. Here is something that I find very fascinating about you is
I'm fascinating.
Oh, you're like a Shrek. There's layers to you.
I'm a smelly onion.
You're only a couple of years in.
Yeah.
And this isn't the old man of MadBash thing, but the fact that you got into the wrestling business so much later in life, I think there's some merit to that, because there's the story of DDP. He didn't have his first match till he was 35.
Right.
He was already in the he was managing and he was in the business, but he didn't start bumping until 35. And I think that that's something, because I remember having a conversation one time with someone, and I was like, this is when I was trying to do the whole YouTube thing. This is after I'd left wrestling the first time. I was like, I feel like I'm getting into the game a little bit too late. I was 28. And I was like, I feel like I'm getting into the YouTube game a little bit too late, you know, because I feel like it's a young man's game or whatever. But I don't think that's necessarily the case.
No, everybody's using it anymore. It's
Yeah.
a platform for all people these days.
Yeah.
You know, you see everyone from older gentlemen on there teaching you how to do DIY woodworking or whatever to, you know, the kids opening their toy videos.
Yeah.
It's for everybody these days. I don't think that, I mean, sure, things on the internet should have an age limit, but processes and apps and sites that are useful to all of humanity shouldn't be age restrictive.
And that goes in.
You shouldn't think of yourself as not being able to use something just because the younger kids are doing it, or because it seems like it's for older people. Because there's a tool there that you can use in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
To help humanity or promote yourself, or to some degree.
Yeah. So then, what was wrestling always something that you kind of wanted to get into, but you just never had the opportunity? Because your first show was in Envision Wrestling's first show,
Absolutely.
which was 20.
That was 21.
21?
Yeah.
So, man, we're coming up on 4 years for you then. Okay.
Well, yeah, I will be starting my 4th year in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, something about wrestling with the month of March. It's almost like, you know, tax returns tend to come out around that time. But so what was it like? What was it? Just we need a ring announcer, and you were like, hey, I'll do it.
No. I was working with the great Bo Sawyer at the time, and he told me that
Goddamn kid.
That's right. Waffle House champion. But we were working together, and he was telling me about Josh and Brian getting together to start Envision. And I just jumped at the opportunity. I immediately said, hey, I want to be the ring announcer. I've been always looking for an opportunity to use my voice in a non-traditional way. You know, I wanted to get into radio growing up, but
I think we all wanted to at some point. Yeah.
I was terrible at college. And so that really never panned out. So along the years,
the thing with radio too is that you don't want to go through all the toil to only make like $13,000 a year.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like one of my biggest frustrations with radio was like being of the older generations. I remember when radio was about the music and about the DJs and about personalities and about fun. You know, you had advertisements, but the radio DJs weren't there to sell Marlboros or Q-tips or whatever. They were there to promote music.
Yeah.
And that's what got me into it originally. And I wanted to be a DJ. And then when you go into college for it, especially, you know, early 2000s when I was doing it, it had become just a marketing process.
Well,
that's it.
That was also like around the death of the shock jock as well.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, because of, you weren't seeing, Howard doing what he was doing, or, if you're talking like the early 2000s, I mean, that was Opie and Anthony getting in trouble for the Sex for Sam thing, in St. Pat's Church. And that was really the end. I'm fascinated by the whole like 90s going into the 2000s, like shock culture era like that. And there's actually some pretty good like documentaries about like the rise and fall of shock jocks that I've always wanted to get. Like I always watched and stuff. And yeah, I'm with you on the whole radio thing. I've always felt like it would be a lot of fun. And then you find out. I had someone one time told my dad, I'm not going to name names. He was in the radio business, and he was like, if I showed you what I made, it'd be embarrassing, and that's,
absolutely. That's one of those businesses where you have to do it for the love.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there to love anymore.
Yeah. Well, because like you said, what
selling airspace.
That's what I was going to say. Like, what is there? You're just selling ads now.
Mm-hmm.
You're just selling
playing
ads.
top 40 hits and selling ads.
Yeah. And even that's kind of dying a little bit too, because of satellite radio. And then even satellite radio is kind of dying because all they do is hire celebrities.
And, you've got Spotify.
Yeah.
Pandora.
Spotify was a big one. Well,
Apple Music.
Sirius XM they own Pandora.
Mm-hmm.
So they have that aspect of it, but
they're still losing XM and Sirius streamers
Oh, yeah.
2 streaming. All right, yeah, listeners,
Yeah.
2 streamers, 2
Yeah.
stream. I'm going to shut up now.
remember those things we said about the bloopers of you getting
Yeah,
tongue-tied?
dude, I'm great at getting tongue-tied. Let me tell you that.
But so Bo says, hey, this is going to be happening. You said, I've always wanted to use my voice in a different way. Radio wasn't necessarily it. So then were there any other steps between wrestling? Or, because I don't know if you want me saying this or not, you had mentioned that you had done stand-up comedy as
Yes.
well, right?
Yes, I've done several open mics. Never anything serious. It's always been kind of a spur of the moment thing.
Yeah.
Maybe at a week's notice, I might drive to Louisville or Indy or Bloomington or wherever and try to get on an open mic there. I've never considered myself any good at it. I don't get too many laughs, but for some reason I enjoy it. It's one of those things where you get up on stage, you tell your story, regardless of how it goes. There's that adrenaline rush, the adrenaline dump, and then the relaxation afterwards. You know, it's just like any, playing a sport and getting through the game or getting in a fight and getting to the end of it. You have that whole process there where you get the endorphins and the rush from it. So it's fun regardless of whether you're good at it or not. I mean, unless you're absolutely horrible at it and you're getting shit thrown at you.
Yeah. I talked about it on the Jason V podcast of where when I was ring announcing, there was a little bit of me that wanted to do stand-up comedy, and Harker Dirge, who was booking the 0-1 Thursday Night Throwdowns at the time, he was like, why don't you go out there before the show and do, and I went out there and ate shit. Bombed. The fucking Bombay doors were fucking open. And I think that he did it as a rib because he knew that I wasn't going to do well, but you never knew with Harker, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so then, to get back on track here a little bit, Envision's coming around and you were just all for the opportunity.
Absolutely. I'd worked with Josh Kaufman for a few years. We worked at a pawn shop together and we're great friends, and, it just came together and I was excited. I wanted to help them, on the side, on that one side as well, because, Josh is a great guy, and being around him as much as I had, I wanted to see him succeed. And that was one of the things that they definitely did there the first year or so. They had a lot of great turnout, and we had a great time. That first show for me was, it was terrible. It was terrible. I remember, I'm one of those people that I know I'm screwing up right in the middle of it.
Oh, and I'm the same.
And it just wrecks my brain while I'm doing it. And so I get through about 3/4 of my part of the show, because I only did half the show to start off. I get to my last introduction and I'm going, shit. Because I was introducing everyone as soon as the music started, before they even hit the curtain. And it was like, oh my God, I've been doing this the whole time. And then sure enough, the very next show, that was the first thing everybody said to me. Hey, wait till they hit the curtain. Hey, wait till they come out of the curtain.
Yep.
Don't do it as soon as the music hits. And it wasn't necessarily like I hadn't seen how this is supposed to work. You just get wrapped up in the moment and
nervous almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all
I
nerves.
was nervous.
All
for sure.
nerves.
Yeah, because this was my first big crowd in a sense. There was 120 people there at that show easily.
For a first show,
yeah,
to be in front of. I think my first show was probably half that, and I was nervous as fuck.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine.
A lot of that was, there's wrestlers in the locker room that I had known for years, and a couple of guys that I was good friends with. I didn't want to, embarrass the hell out of them. And I look out and it's a hometown crowd. I'm seeing a bunch of people that I know, and I just got wrapped up in the atmosphere and made that big first show mistake. But we moved on.
Yeah, and you grow and you learn from it. Just quick little thing here. It's so funny that Bo is the reason that because it's like I feel like so many of us are linked to him.
Oh, absolutely.
In so many ways. Clayton, me, you. I just Bo has just you can do 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Let's do 6 degrees of Bo Sawyer. I feel like that everyone has something because Clayton and I were both in very similar situations where we were his young boys. And, you got the introduction into the business because of Bo. And it's just, Bo is one of the most underrated, influential people in a weird way.
Absolutely.
He really is.
He just draws you in. and he's all about wrestling. So you're going to get drawn into that as well. And
Yeah.
it's hard to not catch his fever.
Yeah, we've told plenty of Bo Sawyer stories. I'm sure we'll get into some on Paige Show as well. But so, he comes to you and he's like, envision, you do it. After that first show, or even before the first show, I guess, did you have the mindset of I'm just going to be doing Envision, or did you have the hope of like maybe I'll be other places?
No, from the get-go, whether it was how I presented myself, how I looked at the business, or how I even, held off on social media for the first year to kind of get a grasp for what I was going to put out there. It was always the mindset of I want to be bigger. I want to do this as a start to getting on TV, or at least getting, big fights or big wrestling shows, things of that sort. I want to take this as a career. And I've always, kind of groomed the process that I've gone through in that mindset, because I want to make sure that, like my social media, you're never going to see me posting anything negative on there. I keep it simple. I keep it to the positive stuff. I'm always there to thank the fans, let people know that I'm grateful for being in the business. And I want people to understand that I appreciate the love and respect that I get from every fan and every promoter and every wrestler at every show. So I promote my social media in that aspect. Or, I try to help. I do another a small video series. I've only done a few during the summer. I call it Pupper Pandemonium, where I go to the Vincent's Animal Shelter and I shoot a few adoption videos for dogs and try to help them get adopted. So I try to keep that as positive and upbeat and accessible as possible, because I don't want to put anything negative out there in the world. And
there's already enough of that.
Yeah, not just because of that, but that's not how I want to present myself. But I also I'm looking down the line at the future. Anybody that I want to work for is going to look at my social media.
And I think people forget about that a lot. Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm being fake about it, but I'm being mindful of it. I'm not on there trying to put fluff pieces of myself on there and make myself look good in any way, shape, or form. I'm just not going to put the horrible BS that I go through on any given day on there. I'm not going to get on there and complain about traffic. I'm not going to get on there and put down, WWE Raw on Netflix like some people have done. There's no need for it.
I have a podcast for that, so I'll do it on my podcast.
But what I'm saying is, you're not spreading the hate in the world, because there's so many more positive aspects that we could look at. And I've tried, and like I said, I've tried to present myself as accessible in that sense.
And I think that goes a long way. I mean, because let's be honest, on any given wrestling show, there's give or take 15 wrestlers booked on the card. There's only one ring announcer. There's only 2 or 3 referees. There's only 1 to 3 commentators. Point being, us auxiliary players are definitely, it's more not cutthroat, but I can't words right now, but you know what I mean. There's less opportunity.
Absolutely.
Because if they've already got a ring announcer booked, why book another ring announcer? Or if you've got your commentary, I mean, it's so it's a lot harder, because there's this pool of wrestlers that you can choose from, and there may be one bad apple or whatever that does what you just described on social media, but it doesn't matter, because there's multiple other people they can choose from. But if you're going to be the one ring announcer on that show, you want to be professional in that way. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. I am the ring announcer.
Yeah.
For 5 different promotions: AVW, NVW, Envision, Hybrid, and EPW. So I am representing 5 brands that do not want me putting a bunch of bullshit out into the world.
Yeah.
So I make sure to keep it as, I don't know, just as loving and as appreciative as possible.
Yeah.
I'm going to show that aspect of me. I'm going to show that side of me, because all the other stuff that's going on in my head, nobody needs to hear that. Nobody needs to hear that when they're trying to get through their day.
Yeah, like why read that? Because like I suffer from depression and anxiety, and
Yes, sir, same here.
A lot of people do. And, you know, we're already suffering with what we're suffering from. We don't need to be reading about it on other people's social media, you know?
Absolutely.
And like, that's why you'll never, like, the common person probably wouldn't know that we have these ailments to us because we don't put it out into the public. Now we're sitting down talking one-to-one, man, I suffer from this, I got that, but it's really no one's business, you know? And like, that's the one drawback. And I understand how hypocritical this is going to make me sound because I'm holding a microphone in front of my face and I host a podcast. That's the one drawback to social media and stuff like this, is that people start to think just because you have the ability to give out an opinion that you have to give out the opinion.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily do. This is an incredible conversation, and we are going to keep it rolling after we hear a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Elite Pro Wrestling. We all love live entertainment, right? We all love live wrestling, right? Well, what if I told you that there is a place that combines the entertainment and the wrestling live that we all love? Look no further than Elite Pro Wrestling. Whether it's in person in Odin, Indiana, or Washington, Indiana, or if you check them out on YouTube, Elite Pro Wrestling guarantees a quality show that allows them to live up to the name Elite. If you're feeling generous, go ahead and check them out on Patreon as well. If you back them, you're going to get early access to all of their shows before they hit YouTube. Again, check out EliteProfessionalWrestling.com. This episode is brought to you by Venom Energy. Hey, we've all been there, and there's nothing wrong with admitting to it. Well, what I mean is that we've all hit that midday slump, and we all need a little push to get us through the rest of the day. Well, what better option to give you a pick-me-up than one of the wonderful flavors of Venom Energy? Venom is what gets MadBash through those long show days, and we know that it can do the same for you. I'm going to sweeten the pot a little bit for you, too. Yeah, come to our merch table when you see us at a show, and with the purchase of a MadBash Wrestling sticker or magnet, you get a Venom Energy drink on us. While supplies last, of course, so you better act quick. We'd like to thank Venom again for sponsoring this episode. Please consume responsibly. Not recommended for children under 18, pregnant or nursing women, or people sensitive to caffeine. Yeah, that was to go back on what we were talking about a few minutes ago, of where I was baffled to to find out how long you've actually been in the business, mostly because of just how good you are, I guess, for lack of to be blunt. And that was another thing. I one time put my foot in my mouth on another podcast. It was very similar to this. It was like an auxiliary player podcast. This was my old podcast from 10, 11 years ago. And I had a commentator and a manager on the show with me, and one of them was substantially older than what we were. And I just assumed by age that it's like, oh, you've been around longer than us. And he's like, actually, no, that's not true. And I was like, oh, damn. Okay, cool. And I remember the first time I saw you, it was at an Envision show.
I was probably just screaming at that point.
Well,
I think my first few shows, I hadn't really gathered myself and figured out that I needed to use my voice a lot better than just screaming. I kind of sounded like Wrestling Society X almost.
That guy. Yeah. Yeah. So I wouldn't say it was one of your, because I met you in 23. I met you in February of 23.
Okay.
So you were a couple of years in at that point, but that was my first thing I noticed about you. And I think I actually gave you that critique, was like, brother, you're yelling into that microphone. Mm-hmm. I was like, these already amplify your voice. You don't need to do it. And to bring him up, Harker Dirge, bring him up all the time. I remember he got on me one time during a promo because he was like, the same thing. He's like, Dickie, you're screaming into the microphone. He's like, lay it and talk over the microphone. But, just stuff like that. And like, I remember walking in, and this was my first my first view of you, and it has now remained the same since. You walk in, there's this tatted up guy in a slush puppy shirt sitting over with his coffee, got his little punk rock jacket next to him, going over cue cards, writing down in information. I remember going and meeting you like, hi, I'm Dickie. Hi, I'm Jeremy. And then Stephen Mitchell was there, and he was like, yeah, he's a really good ring announcer, And then a couple of months later, you were officially the ring announcer for EPW. And I was like, I remember watching you on the show and thinking like, he's solid. I was like, you can tell that, like you're yelling into the microphone. But then like, you just, if you're not getting any better, then I personally, not you specific, just the general you, I've always felt like people, and maybe this is a little bit too harsh, that like, if you're not progressing, what are you even doing? Like I feel like that you need to either just accept what you're going to be, or just accept that maybe it isn't for you sometimes. You know what I mean? And
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm finally getting to that point where I am progressing, and I've started, catching myself during the shows, not getting so caught up in the adrenaline in the moment, and realizing, the mic's too close to my face, or I'm getting a little too loud, or I need to less yelling and more diaphragm in my voice, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's been a long process just to try to find my voice and make sure that I'm not out there sounding like a jackass.
Well, and you're still not prone to snafus.
Oh, absolutely.
One of my favorite ones is we're at the commentary booth, and you're about to, it was the start of the show, and you're about to go into it, and you're about to do something, and then everyone starts Pledge of Allegiance, Pledge of Allegiance, and you're in the ring. You can't understand what people are saying.
National anthem, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Not Pledge of Allegiance.
That'd be a great way to start a
show. Yeah, I pledge
it?
allegiance. Yeah. National anthem. Because I believe Benny Bray's wife was going to be singing it on that show, and she was just kind of standing there like, what?
Yeah.
And then you walk over, lean on the top rope, look right at me, and you go, I did forget the national anthem, didn't I? And then you do it. And I've done it. I mean, I can't really, like, my first show ever, I knew they were going to be doing the national anthem, not the Pledge of Allegiance. And they hand me the mic, and again, it was corded, and they hand me the flag. This is the first time I've ever gotten into a wrestling ring.
They had you hold the flag too?
I had to select a lucky fan from the crowd that could, but I had to get in the ring with the flag.
Yeah.
And it was at that moment that I realized I've never gotten into a wrestling ring. I don't know how to do this. And I got a fucking microphone and a flag, and I'm fumbling, and the mic comes unplugged. And I go, oh, fuck. Okay, I guess I'm cooked. And then I was able to, finagle it and plug it back in. I was like, how's everyone doing? And then I was able to go into it. But
the first time getting in a ring, you don't realize that there's a way to get into the ring.
There is.
If you've never done it.
Yes.
I remember the first time I got into the ring was the only time I ever did it that way. And this is because of Bo Sawyer. I get into the ring. I make my announcement. I get out. I go to the back. I hear Bo go, I see you got under the top rope or under the bottom rope like a girl. I was like, oh man, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah. One thing that it was like one of my it was the same show where the mic fucked up on me. My first couple of shows, I was just a disaster. There were no steps on the ring.
Oh, I hate that.
So me not realizing that I should probably give the little hop and land on my knee, I was full blown pulling myself up on the middle rope. I woke up the next day so fucking, it felt like I went through a full workout.
You're doing pull-ups to get into
I
the
was
ring.
doing pull-ups to get into the ring without even realizing. Just give a little support with your knee and give it a little push.
Well, maybe you keep doing that and you get your back and your shoulders in shape. You know?
Who knows? Who fucking knows? But then I remember one time, and Madrox has told this story. I was managing him and his tag partner at the time at the good old TSW.
Oh, the great
And
place.
yeah, we've got some stories there. We'll get into it on Paid Show. I had just turned heel, and it was like, hold the middle rope for Dickie. And those assholes, they're sitting on the middle rope, and I, do that. And as I'm leaning over, they get up, and the rope fucking comes up, gets me right in the nuts. And years later, he told me, he was like, "Oh, we did that on purpose."
Oh,
He's like, "We knew it. We knew it was gonna happen. We knew it was gonna happen." Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat as you, of where I was very aware. I know what I am. I'm not going to be in there wrestling. I'm not going to be. And there is, thank God, a place for guys like us that can contribute to the show. And just like how you jumped at the opportunity, I also jumped at the opportunity. And I also had in the back of my mind too, I was like, yeah, I want to kind of progress past this,
Absolutely.
And so has there been any other opportunities that that wrestling has afforded you? Like, I know that you mentioned the forgive me for forgetting the adoption thing that you did. You said that you do with the dogs.
Yeah, that's I guess wrestling kind of gave me a platform because I wouldn't be on social media without it. So shooting the adoption videos with the Vincent's Animal Shelter, that's definitely been something that wrestling helped to get me into and allowed me the opportunity. Also, Kyler Shields and Jeff Deckard and Vincennes, they both run music festivals there in town. One of them is the Electric River Jam, which is more of like a rock festival. And then we've got the big 4-day Bluegrass Festival every fall, which is the First City Music Festival. And I've become the MC for those as well, just through, people hearing my voice and getting around in that sense. So yeah, absolutely. The opportunities are coming, and I'm doing my best to always say yes. Yeah. I think especially like you can't say no, sadly. I say sadly, but it's like you always got to take the opportunities that you're given. You
and
never know who's going to be in that crowd.
Yeah. It's just like to go back earlier, we're talking about the business cards. A promoter could be on that show and go, I like this Pandemonium guy. What's his business card?
Yeah.
And then you get...
Or just the fact that you have a business card.
Yeah, exactly. We recently just got MadBash, like physical business cards. And I know Steven that runs EPW, he's got one of those like tap business card gimmicks where you just tap it on the phone and it brings up all the socials. I like that. I think that it's good to have that because it's less shit that you got to carry around with you. But I'm also a very tactile guy. I like to physically have the business card in my hand. I journal. I'm physically writing in a journal. When I'm doing notes, I'm writing it down. I use my notes app a lot on my phone for certain things.
One of the ideas I have, like for one of our small projects we're doing today, is I plan on coming up with a QR code for it, putting that on a business card to where anybody can go watch that video anytime they want.
Yeah, the first MadBash business cards were just simply a QR code. Mm-hmm. And now we've got like an actual, a gimmick with it. But yeah, that's something that like, that I think is really great. But at the same time, I also know the typical wrestling fan thinks kind of the way that I do, in the way of like, they want to physically have the thing, and like, the thing about technology, to get on a soapbox here a little bit, is that I don't think that society truly is up to date on technology like we would like to think.
Well, of course not.
So I think that, and don't take this as me shitting on that the tap business card gimmick, because I think it's great, but I think more often than not you're going to get people that are going to be a little bit confused by that. That's why it's great to just have the physical stuff,
Yeah, and like you said, people just like to have stuff in their hands.
Yeah.
You know, go home at the end of the night and go through that handful or that bag full of stuff and just process the memories and relive it again, and then have it for the next day. It's always important to have that physical stuff at the shows or when you're meeting with fans or promoters or whoever.
Yeah. Just because he's not here doesn't mean that I can't go down the direction that he would usually go, because he has a question for every guest, and you may not have one. You maybe do. Maybe it's the forgetting the national anthem, but Michael Madrox loves to ask, what's the most embarrassing thing that has happened to you in the ring?
I did a whole hybrid show with a giant rip in my crotch.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. We got to talking about no steps. So
yeah,
I go to get into their ring, and my first step into the ring, the very first time in the show, my pants rip. I have no extras. So it was pretty well. I was wearing a black shirt, black underwear. It came over just fine. Nobody noticed, but yeah, it was touch and go for the entire show because I had a giant rip in my crotch.
How I may have known about this and just
I think
forgot.
I told you about it possibly once, but
maybe
yeah,
I probably forgot.
That was a rough, nerve-wracking show, and that was like one of my first shows for hybrid too.
Was that in Strive?
Yeah, I was at Strive 365. That was a big show for me. So yeah, I was sweating it.
Oof. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, is you're trying to make this impression, and it's like I ripped my pants. There,
yeah. I could have just done the SpongeBob bit right there.
When I ripped,
oops, I ripped my pants.
There was one time my pants ripped when I was getting into the ring, and there was a picture of me as I was rearing. You just a rip right in my pants, and I'm like, boy, I'm glad that we are keeping that photo alive on the internet. Why is that still up? Yeah, that. It goes back to the whole, we were talking about the stand-up aspect of it and how when something is going in the moment, like of like what's really going on. That's a rough one of where it's like, do they know that my pants are ripped right now?
Yeah.
Like, do I just need to play this up? Do I need to play it off? Do I need to? And that's because it's like, they're already looking at you.
Uh-huh.
So that they can see you. You're very vulnerable in that moment. And now you got a rip in your pants. So it's like, what the fuck do I do now? Yeah, you got to love those wardrobe malfunctions, man.
Yeah, I've never been booed off of a stage, but I've been given a dirty look till I knew it was time to get off the stage too. So, I was speaking of stand-up. It was actually, I think it was it wasn't the last time I did stand-up, but I was in Bloomington, Indiana, and doing an open mic there. And I was coming to the last part of my bit, and I was getting into a bit where I was talking about how women like to compete when they're getting ready to go out.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you're a man ever with a microphone in your hand, standing on a stage, don't ever try to compare women in any way, shape, or form.
No.
Don't ever talk about shit that you just don't know about. Because as I'm going through this bit and I'm doing my little, she looks like, doing my little voices and stuff like that, I look down, and the very front table, there's 6 to 8 women sitting there, all with their arms crossed. One of them's actually shaking her head at me, and they're all giving me the dirtiest looks ever. And it was at that moment that I knew. I was like, well, I'm done for the night. So I hurried up, I finished up, and I got dirty looked off the stage.
Ooh, that's even worse.
And then the MC comes up and buries me. The first thing he says, he goes, well, sounds like Jeremy hates women. I was like, oh shit, I'm never coming back here. This is not how I meant for this to go over. But so yeah, if you're ever a guy with a mic in your hand, just talk about shit that you know about. Period.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So, obviously we talked about, you've done festivals, you've done, these little PSAs for the adoption, you've done the stand-up comedy, you've done wrestling, but you've still, and I feel like I already know the answer to this question because you kind of said it without saying it. and now that it's evolved into this podcasting, that could be maybe something you'd want to, is the whole radio like hosting thing still kind of in the back of your mind, something you'd want to do, that maybe that could be a podcast or
yeah. I wonder though, as I've gotten older, I've become more self-aware, and I really wonder if I would be able to keep up with content. I'm sure that there are plenty of stories out there that I could come up with through my past and things like that have happened that I could keep rolling. But I think that when I sit down and process it, I just feel like I don't know that I would have enough to keep the ball rolling. I mean, I think it would be fun. Absolutely. But I always saw myself in more of like a DJ aspect.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get a little 2 minutes to talk, get yourself over, do whatever you're going to do there, and move on to the song. Whereas for me to sit there and control the conversation in a podcast aspect, I don't know if I would have the Jones to do that.
If you were a DJ, what would you do? Would you do top 40? Would you do like what do you think that you would excel in?
I would have to do something, less mainstream. That's for sure, because we've heard top 40 stuff all of our lives. I'd like to get into some more underground music, things like that. If I were to I've even considered doing a little pirate radio in my hometown, because you can get a little set up and
easy,
and broadcast for 5 or 10 miles and get by with that, just for fun. But yeah, it would definitely have to be all about the music. Could be hip hop, could be punk rock, could be rock and roll, metal, whatever. But it would have to be all about the music for sure.
Yeah,
and less about the ad space.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying in the, when we were talking about in the beginning. I was like, you kind of already answered this question. Like you going off on your little soliloquy about how like the heart and soul is out of it because it's really just about advertising. And that can go with anything. I mean, hell, I had to do it. I had to go through the whole rigmarole and the spiel in the beginning of this because sadly that's what you gotta do. But
yeah, we live in a capitalist culture, man.
And I actually respect that, like you would want to try to bring the, make it more about the, the art of it than anything. That was my segue into, I have had plenty discussions with you about, I know you're a big music fan, and I know that that's generic in a way to say, because like, oh, fucking course. Who doesn't like music? Well, but
some people like music, some people live it.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're varied in your taste of music. I would say, you mentioned punk rock, you liked all that, but you're also a big, just any genre of rock. I mean, you're a hip hop fan. You're, I'm assuming probably country as well. Like
very, very little country. Very
See, it's
little
always
country.
There was a thing, and this is my generation that would do this. It would be like on their MySpace page, music, anything but rap or country.
Yeah,
that's always how it was. And it's like, dude, I don't discriminate. Like, I'll listen to, like, I'm more of like a 90s country guy and like maybe early 2000s country, but no, anything like current, no, not really.
There's country music out there that I can get into, but it's not anything that I hear on the radio. Like say, the First City Music Festival. I knew of bluegrass. I'd heard bluegrass that I liked before, but I never sought out bluegrass. And now I find myself being a fan of it.
Bluegrass is dope, man.
Oh, I'm telling you.
It's a lot of fun, man.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of fun. And the thing about music is, granted, there's exceptions to the rule. When it's live, you can't beat it.
That's right.
You can't beat it. So with that, because I know you're, you said, you're a punk kid at heart. You've probably been in the muck and the mud and at the punk rock shows. I've seen you throw out the fucking throwing fists and stuff. You've
some hardcore dancing.
Yeah, you've definitely cleared a pit or two in your day. What would you say is the best live concert that you've ever been to? Can you even say?
The best overall 100% big show experience that I've seen, I would have to say would be Tool. They put on such a crazy listening experience. You know, they've got so many great visuals that go along with it, but their music as a whole translates so well live that it doesn't matter where you're at. I've seen them in a small club with 2,000 people, maybe 3,000 at the most, and I've seen them in a stadium. But it doesn't matter where you're at; they sound so amazing and ethereal that I would have to say, as far as the overall show experience, I'd say they put on the best that I've seen.
Yeah, I was always kind of on the fringe of Tool. Like, I always like a lot of the same stuff. I'd never really never listened to them. To answer my question that I asked you, I like, you talk about because I think when it comes to a live performance of music, specifically a concert is what it's called, Dickie. It naturally, the music has got to be there too, but it's also the performance. And
Absolutely.
In terms of the total package, there are 2 concerts that I've been to where it was the total package. One of them was 21 Pilots. Just atmospheric, incredible. One of the most miserable concerts of my life as well, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Oh my God. I'm not built for the pit. And not that it was a pit of where they're but it was standing in the
And you were
pit
just
and
smashed.
standing for that long. I don't like it. But I gotta say, and I think you've told me that you've seen them live. The best performance I've seen live is Foo Fighters.
No, I have
you've
not seen the Foo Fighters yet. I
Oh
want to.
man,
Absolutely, I would love to see them.
and sadly, because Tyler Hawkins, is it? I always fuck his
Taylor
name up.
Hawkins.
Taylor, I always fuck his name up. Sorry about that. I always say Tyler. Since he's passed away now, you're not going to get the full experience.
But they're playing with Josh Freese now.
Which, yes, that's
Of A Perfect Circle, the
Fucking-
Vandals.
yeah.
I saw him play with Sting once.
oh hell yeah,
That was cool.
hell yeah. So I've seen Foo Fighters twice, and do you remember when Dave Grohl broke his foot on a stage dive?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that tour.
Didn't he break a rib on a stage dive once too, or something
Maybe.
like that? Maybe it's somebody else, but
I don't
that
remember.
guy's been through it.
Oh my God. So the first time I got to see him, he was on the big throne, and so we didn't get to see the whole, it wasn't everything. But then the second time I saw him, he was healed. And I'm going to tell you, that was a 3-hour show. That you'll probably enjoy on the one where he was healed the second time I saw him. It was a punk band. Something you'll probably be able to answer. It was something Ray Gun.
Naked Ray Gun?
Naked Ray Gun.
Okay.
They played.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool to see them open up. And then he came out. It was probably not even including their performance, just the Foo Fighters performance. It was probably 2.5, 3 hours. And Dave Grohl, from the time it started to the time it stopped, that motherfucker was shot out of a cannon.
Oh, I've heard
And
that.
he's fucking ripping cigarettes and slamming Jack Daniels and just not fucking stopping. And I'm just like, dude,
That
what?
man learned from Lemmy. You're not going to slow him down.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the best time when I saw him, and I think I've told you this story, is when I saw him the first time when he was on the throne. He was like looking out, and he's like, "Man, a lot of Rush shirts in the crowd here tonight. You guys are gonna fuck around, and we will play Tom Sawyer."
Oh,
And
my.
then the show's going on, whatever. And then him and Taylor Hawkins would go, "Hawkins, yes, David." They would communicate like that, and he'd go, "You can play Tom Sawyer, right?" "Yeah." "All right, someone print me out the fucking lyrics. Get them out
that's
here."
great.
And then he just on a whim played the Foo Fighters played Tom Sawyer, and it was so fucking cool.
Bet that was a trip.
Oh, it was incredible. So I'm assuming they're probably on your top of because that goes into my next question of who's someone you've not seen that you're like, oh,
yeah,
fuck.
absolutely. Foo Fighters are up there. Man, people I haven't seen that I would have to see. I still haven't seen Run the Jewels.
Oh, I'd kill. I would kill to see them.
I'd kill to see any member of the Wu-Tang Clan. I mean, I'd love to see Method Man, Red Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that would be amazing.
I'll tell you the one I missed out on, and it really upsets me because he's not touring anymore. Childish Gambino isn't doing music anymore.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
And I was like, he's such a good artist. His album is on my wall. Like Camp is my all-time favorite album.
But that's just like him to create something so amazing. And
That's
be
Donald
like,
Glover for you,
I'm
man.
done with it.
I'm
Yeah.
done. I'm
gonna
done.
move on to this now.
Yeah, he was on my list, and now System of a Down is touring again, and I'm
Oh, I'd love to
considering
see them.
it.
Yeah, we might have to do that, Dickie.
We may need to talk. I
Yeah.
think they're going to be. I think they're in Chicago.
I'm actually going to see one of my top need to see bands this year in August. I'll see Coheed and Cambria.
I've heard they put on an incredible show.
I have as well. I've got several friends who've seen them tons of times, and they say it's one of the best you'll see. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty pumped for that.
You mentioned Run the Jewels. That was how you and I first bonded. I walked into a Washington show and you were wearing a Run the Jewels parody shirt, and it was the Philly Fanatic and who is it?
And Gritty from the Flyers. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're doing the
Run the Jewels hands.
the Run the Jewels hands, and I go, I know that's Run the Jewels, but what is that? Because the shirt was red.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a Run the Jewels 2 shirt at first. And I walk up to it and I'm like, oh no, that's not the mummy hands. That,
Yeah, right.
And you're like, oh, it's the Philly Fanatic. And I was like, oh, so you're a Run the Jewels? Like, oh yeah, I am. And then we like, have you heard Mike's new album? No, I haven't. Oh, you got to hear it. It's so good. And then I was like, yeah, I love them. And then that's how we first bonded, and then it just kind of went off to the races from there. Like they always get they always get brought up because like that's a rap group that we both really enjoy.
Yeah, you and I turned out to have a lot of common interests.
Yeah, and that was one of the things. I'm going to go back to Bo Sawyer. That was one of the things that really shocked me about when I first got into the wrestling business. Is you realize there's a lot of fucking nerds in the wrestling business.
Oh, it's all nerds.
And when Bo Sawyer, when I'm walking with Bo Sawyer from a Goodwill to the TSW building, I think they fucked up Venom in the third Spider-Man movie. And I'm like, we're about to have this conversation? You lift weights. You're not a nerd. He's like, Dick, I'm a fucking nerd. Like,
oh, I spent 8 hours a day with that guy for a year. He is a major nerd. He is nerd royalty.
Yeah, he really is. He really is. We're going to get into old Bosephine on Paige Show. It's nothing but good things to say about that. I love Bo Sawyer. I love Bo. But yeah, that's the thing that we and it seems like music is what just bonds people. It's always music. And like wrestling is more of a niche thing, but you bond through this thing that we love called wrestling, and then you start to learn more about the people and learn, oh, this is their likes, this is their dislikes. Oh, that's a Run the Jewels. You like Run the Jewels? Okay. Oh yeah, cool. And then like I think I was where I had something on one time and you complimented me on it. You were like, I fucking love that shirt, man. I don't even remember what it was.
Oh, you've worn several things that I like.
Oh, yeah. And
you got quite a bit of style there.
I do. I'm trying to beat Oliver Kane in the t-shirt department because I think that he's got the best t-shirt collection. Dude, one of my favorite, I don't know if I've told the story on the podcast or not. My favorite one time, he was at an EPW show. And I may have told this whenever he was on the podcast. I don't know. And that motherfucker changed his shirt no less than 6 times. And I was like, why? He goes, I don't know. Like, my wife just doesn't appreciate the shirts that I buy, so I just buy them to pop the boys. And that was the day that we all first got the Wrestling Is My Side Chick shirt, which is the best shirt.
Oh, that was that day? That's great.
Best shirt that I've ever seen. I've seen some good shirts, and that is my favorite wrestling shirt. But his workout shirt that's Mike Tyson with an alleged substance on his nose is one of my favorite shirts I've ever seen. And that's what pisses me off, is because it's like I look at these shirts and I'm like, I would wear them, but my friend has them, so I don't want them. So like he and I are also really big with that website. Why can I not remember the name? Rucking Fountain. who they'll do like the weekend drops of shirts.
Oh yeah.
And he'll message me and goes, "Oh, did you see the drop?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what one are you getting?" I don't know if I'm going to. Like, well, here's the one I'm getting. Don't fucking do it, But yeah, there's always a good thing about a good well-placed T-shirt.
T-Public's a great place too.
Yeah,
I love going on there just looking for random shit. I'll just type in Battleship or something like that and just see what comes up. You get some great ideas. It's like going through a meme factory on there, really.
Yeah. I will tell a funny T-shirt story on Page Show because I don't want to put it on Spot Show, but I'll definitely tell it on Page Show. You guys are going to stick around for that one. It's really funny, but yeah, that's gonna pretty much wrap up this interview, man. This was fucking great, and we're not done yet. You're going to be on Page Show with me, so we still got about another half hour.
Having an awesome time.
Yeah, this is great, man. This is definitely. I say this all the time. We've not had a guest on here that I've not enjoyed, so I mean it when I say it. We're going to have you back on, man, and hopefully Madrox can be here, and we can have the whole
Madrox. Hope you get better from that bear mauling.
Yeah, he did get mauled by a bear, but
did the bear run off with his leg, or did they catch the bear? What happened there?
I don't know about
that leg's always getting him in trouble.
I know. We might get into the Christmas special a little bit too on Page Show, but yeah, this was a really fun conversation, and like I know that this maybe brings a different aspect to wrestling because, like I've said it a few times during this interview, we're the auxiliary players and we're just as much in the business as the workers are. Granted, we're not the key focus, but we're the supporting cast. And sometimes the supporting cast can be the most important part of the story. You know what I mean?
You got to keep the show going.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to find your place and keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, speaking of finding your place, this is your place. Why don't you throw out some plugs? Where can people find you? What shows you got coming up?
Got a lot coming up starting in March. We'll be
it's always March.
Yeah, it's always March when the season starts. We'll be at EPW on the 8th. Then we've got NVW in Danville, 2 shows that month. All throughout the summer.
AVW.
AVW.
Yeah, you said NVW.
I don't know. That's the thing is AVW and NVW. I flip them backwards.
I do it all the time too. I
apologize to both promotions.
Yeah.
To the Halls brothers, to Cecil. I'm terrible. I'm a bad person. I love you both. But yeah, I'll be back at AVW and then NVW as well. I know for sure Envision's going to be back for the fair show this year in Vincennes, and big old hybrid coming up here in Terre Haute.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be working for them again this year, too.
Yeah.
Always putting on great shows.
Yeah, I don't need to give any plugs for my dates because they're essentially the same as Jeremy's.
Come see us both.
Yeah, come see us both. Come see Jeremy forget to announce the commentators to the ring.
I've only done that a couple times.
I know. So you talked about social media. Where can they find you there?
I am on Instagram. Finally, I don't really do much on there just yet, but that's one of my big goals for this year. I got on Facebook last year and started pushing that a little more, but I'm going to work towards Instagram this year. And, if TikTok's still around, maybe I'll get on there.
Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
Who knows? Yeah. You can, of course, find me on Instagram, DWobs with a Z card shop. Of course, patreon.com/MadBash Studios.
That's right. Patreon.com/MadBash Studios. Go there for content.
Oh,
It's not just about talking. It's not just about listening. It's pure entertainment.
Love it.
Pure content coming from Mad Bash.
Oh, I love it. The voice of a generation right here, ladies and gentlemen. But speaking of that, those of you on the Patreon, we're going to be rolling into Page Show. This is going to be a fun one, I feel like. They're always fun on Page Show. We had a string of Page shows where they just turned into angry Page shows, but we're back on the mend where these are turning into we're having more fun with them. But on the Patreon, we'll see you guys on Page Show, and the rest of you, we will see you down the road on some form of content.